So
I like early. That's nice weather for me. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to just start off by saying we've got a pretty light panel tonight, just John and I myself. So we're going to do a show just kind of recapping some of the scores across the nation and in Europe, and go over a couple of the recent UFL to CFL signings. So I'm with Viking Wax Press and the Alternative Football panel, of course. And John, you can find him at Run68Bone on X, and any other place they can seek you out, Ron or John?
That's it. I don't have any other stuff. I mean, I do have a YouTube channel, but that's not football stuff right now. So.
Gotcha. That's cool. All right. Well, I'm going to have you start recapping some of the different goings-ons, if you can.
Sure thing. So, we did that show 2 weeks ago, which a lot of people have watched, and we had a lot of great information that went out there. We talked a lot about different leagues. And so one of the leagues that we talked about, that I talked about, is the AF1, which is kind of an interesting league with 8 teams. It did have 9 teams originally, but the Oregon Lightning went under. It was out of Bend, Oregon. So it was Eastern or Central Oregon. I know you're probably very familiar with that, Royce. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's a lot of travel distance and some organizational issues, and it went under. But the AF1 is kind of a fun league. There's 8 teams there, and they're starting their playoffs this week. So they had their wrap up of their regular season. But they've also had some drama with the Kentucky Barrels, and some more of the interesting stuff about that. It's going to be interesting to see, because they made the playoffs, and they are going to be playing against the Michigan Arsenal. And technically, Kentucky should be the home team. But because of some financial stuff, what we've seen is they are not allowed to use their venue. And so, and they had an issue with their team playing, and actually they cut a lot of players, and some other guys were put on injured reserve. And then when they played Beaumont 2 weeks ago, they dressed out another team, the Odessa Drillers, which was in another league, kind of a smaller league, and those players put on Kentucky Barrel jerseys and played for them. And the league and the Kentucky management has said they will have a team and they will be playing on this game, which it should be a home game, because technically they are the third or fourth best team in the standings right there. So that's going to be interesting to see with the playoffs there. And then you have the Minnesota Monsters, who used to be the Duluth Harbor Monsters, and they're in the other league, which I'll talk about next, the TAL. They won 2 championships in the Arena League, and now they're trying to win their first championship in the AF1. But the Albany Firebirds and the Nashville Cats both have a bye week. And Albany's really interesting, because I think they won 8 in a row. They won 20 games straight. They won 12-0 last year. They won their first 8 games of this season, and then they've lost a couple games. And so they've had some struggles at the end of the season, and it's really kind of interesting to see. I mean, as talking about UFL, that we talk about being a DC Defenders fan, how we started out 5-1, and then had a losing streak there, and then got a playoff win, and then unfortunately came up short in the championship. I think Albany's like experiencing some DC Defender mojo right now.
Exactly.
That's
And
something.
they have some competition. I would say the Arsenal has really turned it on over the last half of the year, and they're one of the teams that beat the Nashville. They either beat Nashville or Albany. I don't remember which one of those teams, but they're good. I guess that's all I mean to say is that they are coming on strong at the right time of year.
They are, and I mean Nashville's only got one loss, and that was, I believe, that was actually to the old Kentucky Barrels, beat them.
Oh, that's right.
Beginning of the season, and so everybody was like, "Oh yeah, Kentucky's got a real good chance." And then, of course, Kentucky's had some Kentucky issues, a little too much Jim and Jack in those barrels they've been up there. So it's been something with those guys. So it's a really interesting league, and it's interesting to see their playoffs. They're going to be on. They stream all their stuff on their website. They also stream it on YouTube. I was watching some of the games. We were at the beach in Florida this week, and on the weekend we threw them on, and thank goodness for YouTube, all right, and all that. I don't believe I see that in the comments if it's going to be in the mall.
It's not this year, as far as I know.
No, I think it's going to be in Nashville, actually, because I know that league headquarters are in Nashville. And I was and I think, but I can't guarantee that off the top of my head. I'll have to look that up in a second.
There you go. Adam Snow from the World of Football just answered it in the comments. The Arena Crown, the IFL is the one playing in the mall. So
yes, they had like they got a midseason cup. I remember they were up in New Jersey, and they had like 4 teams go to it. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, I saw that on the mall, and I was like, "There's people shopping." What is it? That was the former UFL player who Pookie Williams. Was that it? He ran over and went to got a slushie after he scored a touchdown in the mall. I'm trying to remember if that was him. He was playing for the Orlando Pirates, and he ran off, went to like the slushy area after he scored a touchdown right there by the food court or something like that. So that's what's so fun about indoor football is crazy kind of stuff like this. So the IFL's got some interesting stuff. So we got some good playoff games coming up this weekend. Both one's on Saturday, one's on Sunday. So if you're a devoted, AF1 fan, they got some games you can watch, and they're free to stream. And let's see, they are at Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern. So if you're in other time zones, you get your 3, 2, and 1 p.m. starts, and then Sunday it's a 7 p.m. so Eastern. So again, down to 4 in the afternoon on the West Pacific Coast. So the AF1's got some good stuff. It's going to be interesting to see if it's going to be Albany and Nashville playing each other in the championship. If like Michigan makes a run of it. I mean, I personally wanted Beaumont in it because I love that red turf that they have. If you've ever seen it, the Beaumont Renegades, they have a red turf field, and you're out in the West Coast, Royce, Eastern Washington with their red turf. It reminds me of that.
Oh yeah,
and so
the Screaming Eagles, yeah. So the Arsenal have that black turf. I kind of like that too. So I'd take either one of those. It's just fun having those indoor teams be able to choose their turf color. It's pretty awesome. Like I like the Freight has cool turf as well. So
the Freight has a great arena in the indoor football league. That's interesting. That's exciting stuff coming up. We're getting a team here in Athens, Georgia. I live outside Athens, and they've hired a coach and everything. And they're actually going to announce the team name later in August. And so that's super exciting stuff that we're going to see here. And I know I'll be going to a lot of the games and seeing that because I love the white footballs. They stick out and everything. It's really cool stuff that they do in indoor football. I encourage anybody to watch that.
Yeah. Oh, one other note before we move on from AF1 is if you didn't see it, the Oceanside team switched owners last week midstream and changed their name and uniforms like right before their last game, which was kind of crazy. So they are now not the Bombers anymore. They're the Stealth. So
Stealth Bombers.
In case, I just think it's Stealth, not Bombers. I think
it is.
They dropped Bombers. I don't quite understand the whole thing, but pretty odd to see somebody change it all that late in the season. So you're never bored watching these arena and indoor leagues. That's for sure.
It's like a soap opera from Latin America. It's got big hair and big drama
and fun.
Oh yes. One of the other leagues I covered, if we want to move on, is the Arena League, the TAL, and they are coming up on their last regular season. this league. And so they have only they have 8 teams, but they have 2 divisions in the TAL. And they had their last regular season, but they only have an 8-game season, so it's a lot less than the 10 games that they play in the AF1. Had a few more games. So this one had some great games. They had some high-scoring games. I watched the St. Joseph's versus Nebraska game. Nebraska was undefeated going into it, and it ended up being 66-58. So if you wanted a shootout, that was a great game, the Nebraska Siege. We're still first in the division, as you can see in the graphic there, and St. Joe's is right underneath them, and then there's Arkansas and Monroe and Memphis and Iowa. So there's a lot of teams around for the playoffs. Only 4 teams make the playoffs in this league. So in the AF1, it was 6 teams make it, top 2 teams get a bye, then the other 4 teams play each other. Here it's a straight up, the top 4 teams make it, so you get the divisional champs, and then they're fighting for it. So realistically, Nebraska, St. Joseph's, and Arkansas are probably going to make it, and then you have Monroe, which is 4-3, but Memphis and Iowa are 3-4. And if you see what it shows right there with the upcoming games, Monroe and Arkansas are playing, and St. Joe's and Clary's having a horrible year. Unfortunately, they're 0-7, and Nebraska and Iowa are playing. So it'll be interesting to see, but the odds are probably Monroe will probably make it. The Greenheads, a little duck mascot, getting their the Robersons from Duck Dynasty kind of inspiration for that mascot.
Yeah, but which is awesome.
Too
bad my Lunkers are out though.
Oh, I know.
Bummed my Lunkers probably aren't going to be in the playoffs, but that's
Lunkers is a great mascot though, and if they could just get a few more games,
it's a humongous fish.
Yes, but it's a fun league. And I like it because it's 7-on-7, and they don't kick, so it's just like if you're watching like 7-on-7s or flag football, this is just the full padded version of that, and they're just getting after it, and it's fun. Again, encourage anybody to do that.
Yep.
So, I mean, this was a fun league. I mean, they're going to get their playoffs coming up, and again, it won't be in the mall. It's interesting to kind of see how some of these leagues are very regional. Like a lot of these teams are kind of, Nebraska, Iowa, Arkansas, Louisiana. It's almost like you follow the Mississippi River up. It's a Mississippi River Valley kind of conference. Well, the AF1 is kind of all over the place. But a lot of these leagues you see, they're regional because it allows them for transportation costs. And you even see that in the UFL, right? Like everybody's basically east of the Mississippi in central or eastern time zones. And that, saves money because I'm sure that the Portland Breakers would love to make a return for you, Royce. The Sea Dragon fans in Seattle are always clamoring on the internet to bring them back. Yep. So, I mean, I'd love to see some West Coast teams, get some teams in the Intermountain West somewhere in Denver, Salt Lake, or Arizona, or New Mexico, or something. The legend that Boise may ever get a team. So who knows?
I would love that. It would be great to have something close, really closer than 8 hours away or whatever the nearest one is to me now. I think St. Louis is closest now, so
no,
it's not doable.
No, that'd be something else though. Yeah. So. If anyone's listening, get a West Coast team. We need it.
Yep.
In the UFL. Don't be like the Oregon Lightning. Start it and then go under. You don't need that.
Please.
Sorry, I keep throwing Oregon under the bus, but it's –
well, and then the sad thing is they had the Black Bears the year before that, and they started out 3-0 and then they folded. So they just can't keep a team going in that league. Yeah. So it's sad. But, okay. That's the AL. You have the IFL stuff next?
I don't have any IFL stuff. I don't have a graphic for IFL, but we can talk about the IFL. Well, I live in Georgia, and so one of the things that we hadn't talked about is
here we go.
We have the American Arena League, or the AAL, which only has 4 teams, but it has 2 divisions. It has the AAL and then AAL2. And I actually work 15 minutes from the AAL2 champion, which was the Peach State Cats. They're out of Suwanee, Georgia, which is in Gwinnett County, which is a northern suburb of Atlanta. And they won the championship in the ALL2, which actually is a much larger team division. And so, which has 12 teams. And they're kind of a developmental league that feeds into the AAL and into the IFL and the TAL and the AF1. And they have players signed with those other leagues. So it's like like single A, double A, triple A kind of thing with baseball. But the Columbus Lions, who have been around for 20 years and they are out of Columbus, Georgia, they went undefeated and defeated the Wheeling Miners. On a side note, the Wheeling Miners head coach was arrested earlier this week for a domestic incident. So that is kind of a, he's making a certain Columbus coach look good. So, yeah. But so Columbus in Ohio, not Columbus, Georgia. But the Columbus Lions, they went undefeated this year. They defeated the Wheeling Miners 3 times, including in the championship game. And they had a parade this past Saturday, 2 weeks ago. They won the championship. They have a really established, they have a very local owner who's really involved in stuff of that nature in the league. And the league's expanding with 7 teams and trying to really kind of get a Southeast regional footprint. There's teams in Arkansas, Memphis, and just West Virginia and Georgia. So again, kind of a regional team. It has regional teams in the AAL2. So it's kind of interesting. It's kind of that old, there was Arena League 1 and Arena League 2 20 plus years ago. They were trying to feed into each other and be developmental leagues. And so this is kind of like a regional, Southeast regional kind of thing. They're trying to do that. So I thought it's been fun. I've been following them on social media. It's not close enough for me to go to games, over 3.5 hours away from where I live, but it's been fun. And I ordered a championship shirt. Didn't come in the mail yet, so I'm not wearing it tonight. But I have a T-shirt just for it because, hey, they worked hard. They're proud. They show their games on YouTube for free. I think they get a pretty good showing at their local stadium, Civic Center there in Columbus. So I just think it's kind of a fun thing to see the originality of these leagues and how some of these owners that are small-time businessmen really kind of invest time and energy into them. And they invest in developing and getting the players that they can get and coaches that they can get and giving them opportunities to work and all that. Like Columbus is not that far where the University of West Georgia is. So that the Lions will often practice at the West Georgia's campus or at the local high schools and stuff. So it's kind of fun that they get the outdoor practice, even though they're an indoor team.
That's cool. I just love the fact that they had a parade for them after they won and stuff, that the community really backs them. It's pretty cool.
It is. That they took 4 bus loads of fans for free. You didn't have to pay. You just had to register. They got 4 charter buses and brought a couple, that's about 50, 60 people a bus. So a little under 200 people. They bussed them up from Columbus, Georgia to Wheeling, West Virginia for the championship game. And they just said, register with us. And
Okay. Sorry. I might have froze up for a minute. Sorry about that if I did.
Oh, no. But yeah, that's it. And then they have their little minor league team, the Peach State Cats, and they won their league championship. So they're kind of hard to find more information on. But I'm gonna figure out. I found out where they play is, and I'm gonna try to get down there and see some of their games next spring.
That's cool. All right. Well, any other leagues you want to cover before we go on to some other UFL to CFL signings, or no?
I can do an update on the European leagues.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So the European leagues are kind of interesting. So there's the American Football League of Europe. This is kind of the one that is very flashy. You can't get their games here in the U.S. unless you subscribe to their streaming service. So it's kind of hard for most of the people outside, because in European television, they'll show them on German and French, and European sports networks, their versions of ESPN and Fox Sports, but they don't. So it's kind of hard to see them. But they had a pretty intense week. They had so the top 2 teams are the Rhine Fire and the Vienna Vikings, which are old, long-established franchises. They played. Rhine had lost to Vienna in Vienna, Austria. Then they lost to them again at home, though they had a pretty good crowd. And to compare this with the UFL, they had about 6,500 people in attendance, and that was like the most attendance they'd had all year. So remember, this is actually, during the World Cup. It's the day before the World Cup match and all of that. And it's really kind of, but they have a big atmosphere there. The Rhine Fire cheerleaders, they're called the Pyromaniacs. They're kind of like the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders of European football. There's like 40 of them, and they have fancy routines, and they have their own kind of, following among European cheerleading squads. The London team did really well against defeating Paris. Berlin, which has had a lot of stadium issues, came out, and it's an old, NFL Europe franchise. NFL, the Berlin Thunder, they came and beat the Alpine Rams out of Switzerland, and then Wrocław Panthers, Eastern Polish team, they laid the smackdown on the poor Firenze Red Lions out of Florence, Italy. That was and they lost the week before 48-7 to the Rhine Fire. So it is a league where there's two very good teams, the Rhine and Vienna, and Vienna's undefeated, and the Rhine has only lost to Vienna. And then there's kind of Berlin and Wroclaw, which are kind of fighting for that third, fourth spots. But at this point, London is actually probably in fourth place because it's the same record as Berlin. So if the playoffs were to start today, they're projecting London would make the playoffs. And again, there's only going to be a semifinal and a championship, very similar to the UFL. They're not going to have a bye and have a first and second team sit out in the AFLE. They have some games coming up this weekend. They have 3 games, so we're going to see what's going to happen. They play a 12-game regular season, and then they'll have their playoffs, and they have what they're calling the Gold Bowl, and they just released the image of the trophy, and it's a really cool looking trophy. It's kind of similar to their logo, like an A inside with the football stripes and stuff. So I'll have to get a picture next episode. So with that, they're doing very well. Again, they're kind of struggling sometimes with the disparity of scores, and they've actually kind of losing some players to the other leagues. Some guys have been released and then signed with EFA teams, their competing league in this civil war that's going on between European football leagues of American football.
One quick note, the Vikings quarterback was the starting quarterback for the New Jersey Generals when they started the 2022 season, and Ben Holmes. So
yes.
He didn't stay the starter because Luis Perez came on, but it was just an interesting side note for those who followed the 2022 USFL. They've got a quarterback in the AFLE who's actually been a starter for them for a couple of years.
Yes. And the Rhine Fire starter is Kenji Bahar, who was a Houston Roughneck for 2 years. And
a gambler.
Houston gambler. Yeah. He was with Houston for years. In fact, he was with them for a couple of years.
He also played on the Massachusetts Pirates in the IFL.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Which are now the Orlando Pirates in the IFL.
Yep.
It's interesting how it's all connected and everybody's playing around the same teams.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. And another side note before we move on, just because I learned it from the World of Football podcast, it's pronounced Roshlav, not Wroclaw. But who would know? I mean, it's one of those European things that unless you're European. Yeah.
Yes. The Panthers was call
them the Panthers of Poland.
The Polish Panthers.
Yeah. Cool.
That's a great testament. I'm a history teacher that American football got an inroad in a former Cold War communist nation and has excelled and become popular there. It's only been 30 some odd years, so 36 years, and they've picked up an American sport. That's why football is so popular in like Germany, because of the U.S. military bases in the UK and in Italy and places like that where they had that influence. But they've had it since the 1940s, since the end of the war. They had American football influence. To have somebody place that was not a part of that pick it up is really kind of a cool feat. And then there's the other league, which is the European Football Alliance, which actually has no games this week. They have a league-wide bye week. So all the teams are off to let everybody rest up, which I thought that's kind of a cool thing, just give everybody a break. But it's also a smaller league with only 6 teams. So they had some really good games. This one, your poor Paris Panthers, they did not play as well as still the best uniform in the EFA. They love those jerseys, and that mascot of the old Musketeers on their helmets is great. Yeah, they have some struggles against Nordic, and then the Nordic Storm, who rebounded after they lost against Munich a couple of weeks ago. And then the Tyrol Raiders, who were 0-7, came out and put 61 points on the Frankfurt Galaxy in a 102-point basketball score game of 61-41. I was watching all that, and I'm like, they keep scoring. Like it wasn't even that high of a score at halftime. It was the second half where they just went crazy and started scoring a lot of points. And then Munich, again, went to Prague, another city in Eastern Europe, which has adopted American football and loves it. And they just did a fantastic job of dominating and continuing to move to be undefeated. So similar to the AFLE, the EFA has 2 really good teams in the Munich Ravens and the Nordic Storm out of Copenhagen, Denmark. And then it has kind of mid teams with the Frankfurt and Paris. And then it has kind of these up-and-coming teams that were really struggling, but they're trying to find their way there. And one of the things that's interesting, I watched an interview and read up on, I was talked on the last podcast about the number 1 receiver for Prague Lions. His name's, I can't pronounce his first name, but his last name's Biley, Bellini. And he's 20 years old, and I was watching a thing with him, and he talked about how he started playing flag football when he was 13.
Wow.
He played all these different sports. So he'd only been playing American football for 7 years. And he started with flag football, played that for a year. And then within the Prague organization, he started out playing for the Prague Lions Flag League. He then moved into their kind of like basically their 9th grade team, their 14 and under squad. And he has just worked his way up, learning American football. And now is getting paid to play it.
Amazing. That's really cool.
I thought it was so interesting. He was like talking about how much he's enjoyed it. He played gymnastics, he played soccer, basketball, but he said, I really liked American football and just kind of went with it. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So just I talked about previously how they kind of try to develop and feed people and bring young men up. It doesn't always work out, but it's similar to like their soccer and basketball systems in Europe where they try to develop the talent and bring them up through those organizations. But the EFA is a very good quality football, and they stream all their stuff on YouTube, and highly recommend everybody kind of watch them. Just like the indoor leagues, it's really good just to see that. The time difference is they're 6 hours ahead of us in Europe, because they're 6 hours ahead of Eastern times and 7, 8, 9 for the rest of the U.S. time zones. So that is the one thing is you might have to get up real early, because when they play their 3 and 1 o'clock afternoon European games, it's awful early for us here in the U.S.
I will say I recommend following both of them on X because you get some highlights on X of their games. So
they do through a lot of highlights.
Yeah,
their social media is really good for both the EFA and the AFLE. The UFL could learn a little bit about how to do social media, promote, clip their highlights, put that in.
Yep.
Rapoli needs to go get somebody a visa and bring them over to work for us here in the U.S. and get some of that social media and promotion.
Yep, I agree.
But that's kind of the leagues that I had covered and I prepared some stuff for. But I know one of the things we had talked about is the AFL, the IFL is kind of the granddaddy of the big dog of indoor football. The Indoor Football League, they show their games on Overnight, which is a subscription service, I believe, and Yahoo Sports, which I watch it on, which is free. They have great production values, and they have some really good stuff going on in the IFL. And they're, I think, going into their last week of the regular season in a few. Is it this week or next week? I'm trying to think. Because they play like 15 or 16 games. They have like a real kind of longer season.
They have a longer season. And I apologize because I did not do a good job. I'm on vacation this week, so I got to hang out with my daughter some, but that took precedence over me building some slides. And I'm not sad about it. It was great. No. So I'll work on that though for next time we go around. I'll get some slides built for those other leagues and talk more about the IFL and the CFL, who's kind of hitting stride right now. They're mid-season and doing great. So some fun stuff. In fact, we had some UFL signings into the CFL this past week, and maybe we jump over to them now and cover those signings.
Oh yeah,
so we had two guys. Oh, and here's some weekly standings too we get for the CFL. Thank you for doing that. That's pretty cool. But yeah, these two guys signed the starting quarterback last year for the Battlehawks, who didn't end the season as a starter, but played a lot of the games for them. Harrison Frost is now with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. And then Derek Roberson, who was a all UFL player for the Defenders, is now went from John's UFL team to John's CFL team, the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So you're pretty stoked about that, huh, John?
I am. I think he's going to excel in the Canadian game with the guys being a yard off the ball, the defenders, and just being a wide open game. Roberson has a great motor, and I think he'll excel in the Canadian game, being able to get after, because they're going to pass a lot more. So he's not going to have to do as much run defense, even though he was a great run defender as well. But he really can get off the ball and get off that edge. And I think he'll be an asset for Saskatchewan. I know that they've had a few roster moves. They're dealing with some a tragedy that those of you aren't familiar, they had a player die in an unfortunate car accident earlier this week because they had their bye week. So hopefully he was able to suit up there on Thursday night. They have their game. They're playing Thursday night against Edmonton, which is going to be for first place. Edmonton's 5-1 and Saskatchewan's 4-1. So first place in the Western Conference is on the line in that game. So hopefully we'll see Roberson on CBS Sports here in the U.S. on Thursday night.
That's a fun matchup. That should be a good game.
That's going to be a great game. And some people don't give much love to Harrison Frost. He's from Georgia, from Marietta, Georgia, went to West Georgia and Columbus. So as a guy living down here in Georgia, it's like I'm excited to see a local boy do well. And, he did what he could in St. Louis, but, unfortunately with the injury to Bo Levi Mitchell up there in Hamilton, their starting quarterback busting his ankle real bad, they needed a quarterback, and they reached down to the UFL and grabbed him. And so I think it's great whenever a UFL player, no matter what position they play, signs with the NFL, or if they go up and play in Canada in the CFL. It's great for the UFL because it becomes a selling point to them again. Like, hey, you can still go and continue to play.
If I remember right, he had previous experience in the CFL as well. So
Yes.
I think that's probably the familiarity. There are probably better quarterbacks they could have. And I'm not a Harrison Frost hater like Zom Fox, other guys like that. But
Yes.
and I understand why. I mean, he really did not have a great season overall. No. But especially with the weapons they have in St. Louis, they could have done better. But the Canadian game's different. And it could be he just needs some more practice and playing time, and we'll see. I don't know how much they'll rely on him, but he's on the squad, so we'll see if he plays. Either way, it's kind of cool. I mean, to me, I just love to see these guys getting another opportunity.
Yes. Those are great cards you made, by the way. You do a great job with the graphics.
It's super fun to make them, so I love it. I'm going to keep doing that for as long as I can. Well, very cool. That's kind of all I had. So we can make it a pretty quick show tonight, unless you have anything else. Here's the standings, by the way. Thanks for putting those up, Rick. By the way, Rick 8-Bit is in the background helping us out on some of the posting our graphics and stuff. So thank you, Rick. And these are the weekly standings. Looks like Edmonton and Saskatchewan in the west, and then Montreal and actually it looks like a kind of a clogged mess until you get to Ottawa in the east, where Ottawa has done terrible. So
yes, they hired a new coach, and everybody was kind of high on the former Boise State quarterback and Dinwiddie, I believe. And it's just like, he's really kind of having some struggles up there. Yeah. We got to hope that Zach Collaros has been ruled out for a while, for 6 weeks in Winnipeg. Hopefully Bryce Perkins, former UFL MVP, gets some reps in there. I know he's not going to be the starter, but hopefully he has.
Yeah, that's a good comment that Callie would put in the chat too about the CFL having a rough time with QB injuries because they have had a smattering of starters go down. So it's tough to see that, but then it does give opportunities to other guys, and I hope Bryce Perkins gets a shot because he was so good on the Panthers in 2025.
He did a great job with the Panthers, and he was fantastic at the University of Virginia. So I saw him play in person when they played Georgia Tech when he was in college. And, I mean, he was the real deal. I mean, they lost that game to Tech, and that was back when Tech was still running the option under Paul Johnson. But I mean, it was like my brother-in-law is a Virginia guy, so we were at the game together, and he's a UVA fan, and we were like, I'm like, this kid's good. So, and I mean, really want him to do well, and I think his mobility would add something to Winnipeg's offense.
Yeah. Well, I think over the next couple of weeks, we're going to see if the pattern follows last year. This is the week we started seeing UFL guys sign into the NFL, get a ton of tryouts. So over the next 3 weeks, that's going to ramp up huge. So be watching for that. I'll be putting out the UFL to NFL cards on my X and Facebook accounts, and then we'll recap them here on our shows. So, yes, Callie Wood, I agree. I miss watching Perkins play. He was amazing. Oh, and here's a couple other updates, too. It looks like IFL stuff. Sugar Skulls clinched, and the Tulsa Oilers clinched. So thanks for putting that up, Rick. So that is exciting because they are both solid teams that have been kind of on the bubble over the last few years and like chomping at the bit. So I think it's cool to see some new guys get into the playoffs there. All right.
Oh, and one of the things they announced the name of they're doing an expansion to Austin in the IFL, and they're going to be called the Draft, and they have like a draft horse as their logo. That came out this week. They named it, so just an IFL.
And I'm not sure how I feel about that one. It's an odd name to me, but
it is not very. I know you're trying to go with the Western cowboy, cattle ranch theme. they probably could have come up with something better than draft, unless they're trying to have tie-ins and sponsorships with microbreweries. I don't know. So
yeah. And for me, football and draft means one thing and not,
yes.
So I don't know. It's just odd. Maybe I'll get used to it.
Oh yeah.
Cool. And there's the playoff outlook for the IFL,
Okay.
which is super cool.
So
Sugar Skulls versus the Strike Force, and then Nighthawks versus the Rattlers.
Okay.
And, epic. Nighthawks are so tough to beat, but the Rattlers are having a great season too. Both those matchups are going to be fun to watch. Cool.
Yeah, I need to do that. So I actually know a guy whose uncle was Danny White, who was the
nice.
Rattlers coach, the old
Yeah.
quarterback for the Cowboys. I'm going to try to talk to him when I see him next time and be like, hey, because he was telling me, he's like, oh, that's my uncle. And I'm like, what? I said, so I'm going to ask him, like, hey, what did he think about his indoor football days coaching the Rattlers for all those years?
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. Well, we got some exciting times with the playoffs and indoor football coming up.
Yep. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for the comments. We appreciate it. Anybody out there, if you're watching this at a later time, be sure to put some comments in. We'll try to get back to you. And we're probably going to be on in a couple weeks, I believe is the plan, 2 weeks from tonight. And that could change. If somebody wants to do one sooner, we might do that. But I believe the plan is 2 weeks from now, we'll do another show. So thanks everyone for hanging out with us and talking football. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
You want to close us out with anything, John?
Hey, watch the indoor games, watch the European teams. You're going to see guys that are going to go to the UFL from those teams, and it'll be exciting to see guys that played in the UFL on those teams. Just everybody watch the games and watch the Canadian stuff. 3-man football is awesome. Three down football.
3 down football. Love it. Okay. Bye, everyone. Thanks so much.
See ya. Thank you.